My name is Emma, and I love Oliver. We've been friends for almost 7 years and in love for more than 4. Oliver is my perfect partner, kind, good-looking, and has a steady job that pays well. He's been working hard since he was 15 and is proud of it. He's a responsible person who likes working to support a family. He grew up near the sea while I'm from the big city. We got married 2 years after we met, just a month after falling in love at 19. My parents were happy for us, but his family wasn't so sure at first. They thought I was forcing Oliver into marriage even though I was a virgin and didn't have any kids. It's confusing why they thought that way. I've been working hard too, starting at a hotel when I was 17. Oliver had a past relationship, maybe 2, but he only talks about 1. It's strange that they blamed me for things. Despite the initial challenges and some early disagreements, Oliver's family eventually accepted me as part of their own, and we all found happiness and trust together. Oliver and I have been happily married for almost 4 years now. I take care of cooking and cleaning for him and am always ready to fulfill his desires in our private moments. We both find a lot of joy in our relationship. Now, here's where things get complicated. I've been working with a man named Duran at the hotel since the beginning. Duran is 32 years old and does maintenance and cleaning work. Let me be very clear. I don't have any romantic feelings for Duran. He's just a good person who's been through tough times. His wife cheated on him and left, taking their son with her. A paternity test showed that the son isn't his biologically, which exposed the affair and showed another man as the father. Duran, who is not just my friend but also loved by all our colleagues at the hotel, was deeply upset after what happened with his wife. He was so upset that he took days off work, which he had never done in his 13 years at the hotel. He had never missed a single day until then. I was really worried about him. To help cheer him up, I started talking to him more at work and made sure we had lunch together every day with our other coworkers in the break room or outside. Duran feels like he's lost his confidence because of what happened with his wife. He thinks no woman will ever want to be with him again, which makes him very sad. But I don't believe that at all. I think any woman would be lucky to have him as her partner. He's kind, caring, a good provider, and a loving father to his son. I'll tell you more about that part of the story later. Having chats with Duran made me think of a way to help him and maybe explore something new for myself, which I hadn't done outside my relationship with Oliver. I wanted to help Duran feel more confident and also figure out something for myself. So I decided to talk to Oliver about it. After dinner, I brought up my idea and asked for his opinion. Oliver burst out laughing, thinking I was joking. I assured him I was serious and explained why I thought it could work well for Duran and me. I made it clear that I had no romantic feelings for Duran. Oliver got really upset and left the room angrily. But he didn't lock the door, indicating he wanted me to show my love and commitment. I undressed and joined him in the bedroom, knowing how much he loves that kind of intimacy. Despite our argument, we made up and fell asleep together, still in love and happy. The next day, I brought up my idea again, but Oliver firmly refused. He warned that if I went ahead with it, he would file for divorce and cut off all contact. I accepted his decision and spent time with him, watching a movie and enjoying each other's company. We ended the night on a positive note, still deeply in love. During this time, I noticed that Oliver seemed distant and often busy with things other than our usual moments together or the meals I made. He would frequently talk on the phone in private or in a quiet room. It made me suspicious, but I couldn't pinpoint anything specific. Days went by, and it was Sunday. After our religious service, Oliver was getting ready for his annual fishing trip with his family by the sea. I had no problem with this tradition, as I understood it was important for him to bond with his family and maintain his strength and masculinity. Before he left, I brought up my idea again. Oliver seemed frustrated but said, "Emma, you're an adult, and I can't control your decisions. If you want to explore something with another man, I can't stop you. I've already told you how I feel about it." I thanked him for understanding, but he looked at me strangely before driving away. After Oliver left, he reminded me of our conversation and asked me to consider his feelings. I reassured him of my love and continued to send him affectionate messages that night. The next day, during lunch, I talked to Duran about my idea. He was surprised and initially declined because he didn't want to get involved with a married woman. I explained that my husband knew and allowed it, and this was something I wanted to explore. Doran thought about it all night and agreed the next day, but only if both Oliver and I were okay with it. He made it clear that it would be purely physical with no emotional attachment. I assured him that I had no romantic interest in him. He was a good person, but I didn't find him attractive in that way. On Tuesday night, I visited Doran at his cozy home, and we had the encounter we talked about. We used protection and kept it purely physical, without any intimate gestures or kissing. It seemed to fulfill Doran's needs, and for me, it was just about satisfying my curiosity. It wasn't a memorable experience and didn't hold any emotional significance for me. Afterward, I texted Oliver to let him know everything went smoothly. I reassured him that Doran felt better about himself, and I had clarity about my feelings. I made it clear that I only want to be with Oliver, the love of my life. It's important to note that the encounter with Doran was purely physical and used protection, without any emotional connection or love, unlike my intimate moments with Oliver. I reached out to Oliver because I was worried about his reaction, but he didn't respond that night, leaving me anxious. The next morning, he texted back, saying he'd be back home on Saturday instead of Friday, showing understanding about the situation, which I appreciated despite not liking the extra time apart. The next day, Doran and I had lunch, and he thanked me for helping him regain confidence. He also shared that he got 50% custody of his son through the court, despite not being the biological father. I celebrated this with him and mentioned that since our initial purpose was fulfilled, we didn't need to continue meeting individually. He understood and thanked me, assuring me of his honesty. During this time, I kept sending Oliver loving messages and pictures of myself, but his boat had bad phone service, so he couldn't reply much, just saying he looked forward to seeing me on Saturday. I was so happy and couldn't wait for him to come back. But then something really sad happened. On Friday, after a busy day at work and buying Oliver's favorite foods, I came home to a shock. My apartment was empty, and there were divorce papers on the counter with a note from Oliver. It said, "Thank you and good luck with Doran," and it was signed by Oliver. I was shocked and started crying when I saw what had happened. I knew this decision wasn't really Oliver's choice. His family had convinced him. Oliver would never do this on his own. He took almost everything from our home: furniture, dishes, even our bed. He left me with just a few things, like a small TV and some basic kitchen stuff. All I had left were my clothes, toiletries, and makeup. When I tried to call Oliver, I found out he had blocked my number. His family had done the same. It seemed like Oliver had been planning this with a lawyer for a while. Maybe since I talked to him about Doran. It felt like a sneaky move. I couldn't believe what was happening. When I read the letter that came with the divorce papers, it said I had to talk to the lawyer instead of Oliver, which made me cry. By the end of the day, I decided to call the lawyer to figure out what to do next. I told them I couldn't afford to stay in our apartment alone. The lawyer said Oliver had paid for the rent and basic bills for the next 3 months, but I had to cover things like internet and phone on my home. They also said that when the lease ended, Oliver had decided not to renew it. If I wanted to stay, I'd have to talk to the landlord about renewing it myself. I'm worried about how I'll manage to stay in our apartment when I can barely afford it. Is this how someone treats the person they love, someone who gave them everything from love to doing all the chores? Oliver always got whatever he wanted, but now I feel like I'm losing everything. I couldn't sleep that night. The next day, I went to Oliver's work site. He was working near the shore, which he had asked for. He's a skilled concrete worker, one of the best, especially for his age. I asked the boss to tell him I was there and that I loved him. He said he would pass on the message. I feel overwhelmed with sadness, like I've lost someone dear to me. I talked to a friend at work about everything, and she was surprised by what happened. What she didn't realize is that she was the one who first mentioned the idea. When I asked her about it, she said, "Yeah, I brought it up, but I never thought you'd actually do it. It was just talk." The next day, I took a bus to the seaport because I don't drive. I went to Oliver's parents' house, and although they weren't exactly welcoming, they let me in and made me a meal and coffee. I explained the misunderstanding and how much I love Oliver. They were kind, but Oliver's mom told me he doesn't want to see me anymore and suggested I shouldn't contact him. I said I couldn't do that because he means everything to me. Oliver was working far away, and his family didn't offer for me to stay, so I had to take the bus back to my empty apartment. I cried the whole way back and all night. I was so upset that I had to take a day off work to calm down. Now, I really need your help with something. How can I make my husband love me again and fix this misunderstanding? I don't want people judging me or being critical, as I've had enough of that without any real help or solutions. I just want practical advice on how to win back my husband, the person I love the most, because I can't go on like this. Your help means a lot to me. Update 1. Let me answer some questions from this group. Yes, I believe in God and think marriage is sacred. No, I didn't cheat on my husband and I never would. It's really rude to even suggest that. Yes, I see myself as a good person. How many 24-year-old women do you know who have only been with one man? Probably not many, unless they're nuns. No, I don't want any kind of relationship with Doran beyond work. There's no attraction there. I helped him because I wanted to, not for any other reason. God will judge me, not you. No, I won't be with another man in the future. Maybe you should ask these questions to your own partners if you're curious. No, I didn't disrespect Oliver. You don't know him, so you can't judge him. I know he's a good person. No, I haven't told my family about this, but I'm sure they'd be proud of me for doing what's right. No, I'm not interested in being intimate with anyone else here. Some of you seem bitter, and that's not helpful. Update 2. I have to share another update, and it's not good news. It's been a whole month without my husband, and I feel really sad and empty. I've tried everything to reach out to him, but he hasn't replied. I even called him from different phones and left heartfelt messages, but he hasn't returned any of them, even though I poured my heart out. I even asked Doran to call Oliver and thank him for helping him. Doran made it clear that there's no love between me and him. We're just co-workers. He said Oliver was a great person for what he did, but still there was no response from Oliver. I opened up to my parents and brother about my divorce, hoping for support. Unfortunately, they reacted with anger and couldn't see the good intentions behind my actions. They only saw it as cheating and were disgusted with me. They even suggested I go to confession every day for a year. I believe that God will judge me, not people on earth, not even my own family. Final update. I wasn't planning to come back to this post, but some kind people asked for an update, so here it is. I wish I could block the bitter comments. Anyway, let me tell you what's going on now. I'm living in a community hostel because I can't afford rent in the city. It's okay for now, but it's not a permanent solution. I could have stayed with my parents, but we don't see eye to eye. As for the divorce, it's done. It might be the quickest one ever, but I have faith in God to help me through. The judge didn't seem to understand my perspective and saw my actions as cheating, despite me helping Doran. He said it was a breach of marriage. I tried to explain that my husband had agreed to what I did, but when asked, he and his lawyer denied it. They said Oliver had told me, "You're an adult, and I can't stop you from doing anything." Oliver had also warned me before that he would divorce me if I went ahead with it. The judge then asked me, and my lawyer confirmed that Oliver did say that. The judge then asked why I still went ahead with it, but we didn't answer because he said it didn't matter. He granted the divorce and ordered Oliver to pay me about $7,000 within 90 days. It's hard to believe. After 4 years of taking care of Oliver and doing everything for him, I only got $7,000. If I had worked, it would have been over $200,000. Do I think I should have gotten 200,000 euros from Oliver? No, I don't, but getting only 6,000 euros seems unfair. Why don't we value women more for what they contribute to marriage? Can anyone in the comments explain that to me? This is my last post here. I won't keep arguing with unkind people. I'm tired, and you're not nice. Instead, I'll focus on winning Oliver back. I told him I won't date anyone for a year or maybe longer, waiting for him to come back. I gave him my new address and said he can visit anytime for affection. I believe one day he'll come back, and we'll be happy together with lots of love and maybe kids. I wish everyone a Merry Christmas and send best wishes, even to those who may not like themselves or me. Now, let's move on to a different story. Get ready for some excitement. This story happened more than 5 years ago when I, John, was 31, and my girlfriend Lisa was 29. We had a loving relationship for 3 years, or so I thought. We met at a cocktail reception at an art museum, even though neither of us were big fans of modern art. We hit it off right away and started dating casually. Eventually, we decided to be exclusive because we had a strong connection. About a year into our relationship, Lisa suggested we move in together to take things to the next level. I was hesitant at first, but we still spent most nights together. and our love grew deeper. Over the next year, Lisa gently encouraged me to move in together. On our second anniversary, I finally agreed, and we started living together. Everything was going well, and our intimacy was still strong. Lisa started talking about marriage and having a family. I told her I could see that future but wanted to make sure we were both ready. About 3 months after moving in together, I got a surprise when Lisa called me at work to say she might be pregnant, even though she'd been taking birth control pills. She said she hadn't missed any doses, so it was a small chance of the pills not working, which happens about 9% of the time. I felt a mix of fear and excitement, but started to feel happy about becoming a dad. When I got home, I was thrilled and hugged and kissed Lisa, sharing my excitement. In the following weeks, Lisa kept talking about getting married. I said I wasn't ready yet, but suggested we talk about it after the baby came. She understood but kept bringing it up because she really wanted to be my wife. Over the next few months, we focused on getting ready for our baby. We turned our spare room into a beautiful nursery, spending a lot to make sure everything was perfect. During Lisa's 7th month of pregnancy, I proposed to her, and she happily said yes. We were thrilled. We planned to have a civil ceremony at the mayor's office the next month, followed by a bigger celebration after the baby was born. But just before the ceremony, Lisa went into labor. We rushed to the hospital, and by 9 a.m., she had a healthy baby boy. I was by Lisa's side in the delivery room, assisting with the birth. Although the delivery went relatively smoothly, I couldn't help but notice immediately that the baby didn't resemble me. He had jet black hair, a deep brown complexion, and appeared to be of Hispanic descent. Both Lisa and I, along with our extended families, have Northern European backgrounds with light hair and fair skin tones. No one in either of our families has Hispanic heritage. When the baby was placed into Lisa's arms, I glanced at her face, and despite her efforts to appear composed, I could sense her shock at the baby's appearance. My heart was racing, but I managed to maintain my composure, pretending that everything was normal. Lisa wanted me to hold the baby, which I did, and tears welled up in my eyes. I cradled the infant and felt an overwhelming sadness knowing he wasn't biologically mine. Even though I felt really sad, I gave the baby back to Lisa and said I was going to tell our parents the good news. I went to where our parents were waiting and told them everything. They all went to see Lisa and the baby, but I needed some time alone to calm down. I went to a small park with a stream near the hospital. There, I couldn't hold back my tears. It felt like my whole world was falling apart. I knew I was going to lose both my future wife and the baby I had hoped for so much. I cried for about 30 minutes until my phone rang. It was my mother. My mom asked if I was okay, and I said I think so. Then she told me she understood why I needed some space. I told her the baby wasn't mine, and she said she knew and would support me no matter what. With her support, I felt better, so I went to freshen up in the restroom and came back to the room. When I returned, only Lisa, her parents, and my mom were there. The baby had been taken to the nursery, and Lisa was really tired from giving birth. I suggested we all leave her to rest. As we left, Lisa asked if I could stay with her, but I told her gently that she needed to rest without talking. We went to the cafeteria and stayed there for a few hours while Lisa rested. When we came back, I let her parents check on her first. After they spent about half an hour with her, they told me Lisa wanted me to come in. So I went in to comfort her. Lisa started talking, saying how happy she was and asked if I felt the same. I told her I was thrilled that both she and the baby were healthy, but she noticed I seemed distant and asked if something was wrong. I told her we needed to talk. She asked what about, and I said, the baby. Confused, she asked, what about the baby? That's when I told her, Lisa, the baby is clearly not mine. She got defensive, insisting, it's your baby. Who else would it be? I challenged her, asking her to tell me. She started crying, and I let her cry for a while, maybe about 10 minutes. After she calmed down, I asked her again about the father of the child. Through her tears, she said, you're the father. But I didn't believe her and said, please don't lie, Lisa. She fell silent and stared ahead. Eventually, she said, I'm sorry, John. I was unfaithful, but I want you to be the baby's father. I didn't accept her plea and asked again, who is the father? Reluctantly, she admitted that her ex, who she had been with for over 5 years, had come to town 8 months ago, and they had a brief encounter at our apartment. I stood up and walked over to the window, looking down at the traffic below. Lisa nervously asked if our relationship was over. I told her it was because I couldn't trust her anymore. She started crying, begging for another chance, but I said it wasn't possible. I told her she needed to tell our parents about what happened right away. She begged me not to, but I insisted, saying, "You have to do it now because you won't be coming back to our apartment when you and the baby leave the hospital tomorrow." She begged me again, but I just said no and went to get our parents. When we came back into the room, Lisa's dad noticed she had been crying and asked what was wrong. I asked everyone to sit down, and then I told Lisa, "Tell them what we just talked about." Lisa was overwhelmed with emotion and couldn't speak through her tears. I explained everything to our parents, and they all started crying, especially Lisa's parents. I told them that when Lisa left the hospital the next day, she would go home with them, and I would arrange to move all her things and the nursery we had prepared to their house. While we talked, Lisa kept crying. Then I told my mom it was time to leave. Lisa screamed, "John, please don't leave me. I love you, and I'm so sorry." But we walked out, leaving her parents to comfort her. As we drove away, Lisa called and begged, "Please, John, don't end our relationship like this." I said, "Lisa, I didn't end our relationship, you did. The trust we had is broken, and the person I knew and loved is gone." Despite her pleas, I stayed quiet, and finally, I told her there was nothing more to say before hanging up. The next morning, Lisa's father came with his van, and we packed all of her things and the nursery into it. I went with him to their house, helped unload, and set up the nursery in one of their spare rooms. I was heartbroken. Lisa's mom asked if there was any chance I'd change my mind and give her daughter another chance. I politely said it wasn't possible because I couldn't trust Lisa anymore, and I couldn't love a child that wasn't mine. Her dad drove me back home, where I spent the day crying. For the next week, Lisa kept contacting me, calling over 100 times and sending many texts. She told me she loved me and wanted another chance. At first, she understood why I didn't want to marry her or be a father to her baby. She suggested we keep dating like before. I didn't reply, and eventually, the messages stopped. This has definitely been the toughest time I've ever faced. Even though I don't plan on being involved in Lisa or her son's lives, I do think about meeting him when he turns 21 for a beer. I want to thank him for coming early, which stopped me from marrying his mom and making my life even more complicated. To all the guys out there, I suggest getting a paternity test before the baby is born. It can save you from a lot of pain and wasted time later on.